In 1971, hundreds of American insurance carriers did something almost un-American. They pooled their most valuable asset, claims data, into a single shared database. They built it together. They funded it together. Then, one morning in October 2009, they sold the whole thing on the New York Stock Exchange. And ever since, they have been paying rent to use the database they helped create. This is the slow, quiet heist of Verisk Analytics. At its IPO, Verisk was worth around $4.9 billion. Today, that same company carries a market capitalization of roughly $40.4 billion. A 724% climb, compounding at about 12.2% every year, in a business almost nobody outside insurance has ever heard of. Rewind to 1971. The American property and casualty industry has a problem it cannot solve alone. To price risk accurately, every carrier needs decades of claims data, spanning every zip code, every peril, every policy type. No single insurer has enough exposure to see the full picture, so the industry does the unthinkable. They cooperate. They form the Insurance Services Office, ISO, a non-profit consortium that pools claims data, actuarial statistics, and standardized policy forms from carriers across the country. It is, in plain English, a shared database, built by competitors, owned by competitors, funded by competitors. For more than 2 decades, it works exactly like a public utility. This should be illegal. Hundreds of direct competitors sharing pricing data sounds exactly like the antitrust violation it would be in any other industry. But in 1945, Congress passed the McCarran-Ferguson Act, exempting the business of insurance from federal antitrust law when regulated by the states. ISO is built directly on that loophole. Quietly, legally, the carriers spend the next several decades funneling claims and loss data into one central vault. Then comes the pivot the industry never quite understood. In 1997, ISO converts from a nonprofit cooperative into a for-profit corporation. The carriers who spent decades building the database are forced to relinquish ownership control of the very asset they created. It is one of the strangest ownership transfers in modern American business. The plumbing stayed in the same building. The deed quietly changed hands. Now we get to the day the rest of the market finally noticed. October 6, 2009. Verisk IPOs at $22 a share and raises $1.9 billion. It is the largest U.S. public offering of the year. Here is the twist. Not a single new dollar of capital goes into the business. Every share is sold by existing insurance company shareholders. AIG, Hartford Financial. Travelers. They are quietly cashing out of the data utility they had spent decades building into a stock market that did not yet understand what it was buying. One investor refused to sell. Berkshire Hathaway. Warren Buffett, who arguably understands insurance better than anyone alive, did not part with a single share. Morningstar described his decision, politely, as a vote of confidence. We would describe it more bluntly. Buffett saw a regulated toll booth that the insurance industry could no longer live without, and he was happy to sit there and collect. Look at the revenue line in the years after Verisk shed its energy and financial services arms and became a pure-play insurance data utility. $2.5 billion in 2022, $3.07 billion by 2025. Slow, steady, almost boring. Which, if you know anything about toll booths, is exactly what you want to see. Every one of the top 100 U.S. property and casualty insurers, in the lines Verisk covers, is a customer. Customer retention sits at roughly 95%. About 70% of revenue comes from those primary U.S. carriers. They cannot leave. And every year, the data they themselves keep feeding back into the system makes leaving harder. Why can no one leave? Because ISO files more than 4,500 regulatory documents every year on behalf of the industry, across all 50 state insurance departments. Standardized policy language, manual rules, loss cost data. If you are an insurer, ripping Verisk out of your stack means rebuilding your relationship with every single state regulator in the country. Almost nobody volunteers for that. And here is the toll booth doing its work. Adjusted EBITDA margin, 53.5% in 2023, 54.7% in 2024, 56.2% in 2025. Every extra dollar of subscription revenue lands on a fixed-cost data platform that was already paid for decades ago. The math gets quietly, mechanically better with time. This, right here, is the quiet monopoly thesis in one slide. The best businesses on earth are rarely loud. They are not consumer brands chasing impressions on your screen. They are invisible toll booths sitting between two parties who genuinely need each other. Verisk sits between every U.S. property and casualty insurer and every state insurance regulator. Roughly 83% of its $3.07 billion in revenue is recurring subscription. The customers built the road, the customers helped pave it, and the customers cannot leave the road. Verisk simply stands at the gate and collects year after year at a 56.2% margin. So where are the cracks? A few are visible. Growth has clearly cooled. First quarter 2026 revenue came in at $782.6 million, up only 3.9% year over year. Some of the biggest carriers are quietly experimenting with their own AI-driven risk models, dreaming about a day when they no longer rent back the vault they once owned. But until Congress repeals McCarran-Ferguson and every state regulator rebuilds its filing infrastructure from scratch, this toll booth keeps printing. The lesson here is uncomfortable. The carriers built the railroad, sold the railroad, and then quietly bought tickets back on the train they built. If a $40 billion invisible toll booth changes the way you look at boring businesses, hit subscribe. At Quiet Monopoly, the loudest stocks rarely make the best owners. The quiet ones do.